and welcome to The Breakdown. Yes, the celebration we were all waiting for. Olympic gold for our Blackfern Sevens once again. Usual suspects, Sir John Cooan, Mills Muliaina. I'm Jeff Wilson. We're not going to waste any time because someone's wasted no time going across the Tasman. She was only home for a couple of days. She's a World Cup or a winner at the Olympic Games. And Stacey Waaka, you've wasted no time, but your Olympic Games medal, has it travelled with you across the Tasman? I know you're preparing for the WNRL. How are you? Look at it. How proud are you? Have you taken it off?
Guys. I have. It's quite heavy. Get a bit of a rashy neck. But yes, she's here. She's here with me. I'll share it with the Broncos girls, absolutely.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us. I suppose you only spent a couple of days back in New Zealand, but has the reality hit home of what you've managed to achieve?
If I'm being honest, no. I'm like, we won in Tokyo, we've won again. Still haven't had time to celebrate with my family yet, which is sad because I am here so quickly. But I know it's all good. Time will come when I do get that opportunity. But for now, next job, and I'm so excited. Look, I'm really nervous. I've never played league in my life, as you guys know. So I'm nervous. The Broncos girls are playing right now, actually. So I'll get back to watching them after this interview. But I'm here to learn, new challenge, and just something different.
Stacey, how, massive moment, Olympics, biggest crowds ever. How did you and the team deal with the doubt and the pressure?
I think the biggest thing for us dealing with it was just trying to focus on one game at a time. We didn't look too far ahead. We didn't talk too much about winning. We knew everyone was chasing us because we did have that pressure of winning in Tokyo. But the thing is, we went a month earlier. We had a good training camp in Soustons. We just enjoyed each day as it came. And I think because the culture of our group is quite good anyway, that was sweet as. It was more about getting our rugby right, getting our combinations and relationships nailed before the big day came. And yeah, just not worrying about anyone else but ourselves. I think that definitely helped.
Yeah, well done, Stacey. I mean, congratulations on another gold medal. But I guess when you talk about that relationship type of scenario, I mean, how did you guys reflect? Because, you know, you guys have been in an era of sort of greatness, in my opinion. I mean, and for a lot of some of the wahine, you won't possibly play with them again in terms of the rugby. I mean, I presume there would have been a few tears, but sort of happy tears at the same time. How did you guys reflect?
Yes, a lot of emotion running through the potty mills, I can tell you that for sure. We knew it was Tyler and Portia's last run in the black jersey with us, so we made sure to make it special, and winning was just the icing on top of the cake for them. But we talked about, you know, enjoying the moment and making sure that we did celebrate because we had families and friends in the stand this time. It was so much better than Tokyo with no crowd to play in front of. We loved the atmosphere. It was crazy. You've played in front of a French crowd before. You all know how hectic it is out there, how loud it is. But it was cool. And so, yeah, we celebrated. We made sure that we enjoyed time after winning. But yeah, lots of emotions. Still in shock. A little bit of disbelief, but I hope it kicks in soon because I've got another job to do.
Stacey, you're the best of the best, though. That's what the Blackfern Sevens are. What is it that you think gives you that edge that you're so consistent? The fact when the big moments come, and you've gone through some hardships, but we've seen in recent times when you've had to play the biggest and best performances. What's the difference about this group compared to other teams?
Yeah, I think it's probably lucky for us that we've been in big pressure moments quite a lot. We've made a lot of finals. We've won some, we've lost some. So that's probably the growth area that we've had is all the girls in our team have had experience across the board. It's probably the most game time that our whole squad has had this whole season. So there were no debutants. All the younger girls had the opportunity. And when the team got named, we were all very confident with ourselves, with each other, that we'd be able to get the job done. So lots of training at home. And that was probably key, was believing in ourselves, believing in our own ability, that we actually did deserve a spot and we actually had the goods to be out there and perform when we needed to. And yeah, I suppose it comes down to the group and everyone just having each other's back whenever we needed to. But I think that was the difference. If you can see, Canada have never played in big pressure final moment like that. the last few years. So I knew it'd probably be hard for them, but for us, just being calm, adapting as we went, and our big time players like Sarah Hiddeney stepping up when we needed her most to get that last try.
Stacey, you're still a young athlete and a young woman. Have you thought about a three-peat? Are you thinking that far ahead?
Oh, JK, I knew this question was coming. After winning, I was like, yeah, nah, I'm stoked. I've been to 2 Olympics. I've won gold. But I did think about it, only 28. I could only be 32 at the next one. It's what Portia is right now. Actually, she's 33 and she's still coming up. So I thought, oh, maybe she's giving me hope that I can go to another one. But you know what? I'm just going to take it year by year for now, see how the body holds up. And if I'm good enough, I'm good enough. If not, all good. I'll see where life takes me.
How are you feeling right now, though? You mentioned before you've never played league before. Are you anxious? I mean, you've done everything in terms of, winning. I mean, obviously, what goal are you after in terms of this, apart from, winning in our LW?
Yeah, I'm scared. I am scared as heck. I'm nervous. I'm still trying to learn the rules. I'm trying to watch as much as I can. But I'm excited too. I'm excited to go out there and do something. So, yes, I have been to a lot of pinnacle events with Com Games, with World Cups, with Olympics. But next goal on the list is potentially play for the Kiwi Ferns. Probably going to put my hand up in trial this season just to see where it goes. Obviously, I'm back with Sevens for the next 2 years, so can't get rid of me just yet. But maybe a potential code switch after I finish playing rugby. Who knows? Maybe a League World Cup. We'll see where life takes me.
And it's a switch, of gear though, and kit. And I understand you've already got your kit ready to go. Can you show us what it looks like? Where is it? Is it you've got the issue?
Absolutely. Haven't tried it on yet, but hey, it's like
everyone loves it. Right. Look at that, baby.
Yes. Everyone loves your kit. I can't wait. Initials all on there, so SW and the Brisbane Broncos kit. Cannot wait.
Thanks, Stacey. Good luck. Appreciate your time and go well. Well, outstanding from Stacey, but also outstanding from the whole team. But also, sometimes some things come to an end. And for Portia Woodman Wycliffe, it is that time in the Black Ferns jersey, and she's been one of the very, very best. What a career in the black jersey team. And let's think about that, the context of the success that she's had as a player in both 15s and 7s, JK. You talk about people who changed the game and I suppose opened the world to the possibilities. Has Portia been that player for rugby?
Yeah, totally. This generation, I think, has set a standard that will make the young people great. Like, you think about Stacey, talking about what Sarah did in the final. The great thing about Sarah, made a mistake and then her next 3 touches were game-changing. That is a champion. The thing I loved about Portia was just her balance and her speed, Mills. She had incredible grace, incredible ability, incredible strength. But the thing I love about this generation is the standards that they've set. Yeah. You're coming in as a young person, you've got Portia, you've got Sarah, you've got Stacey that are setting these standards that just make you so much better as a young player.
Yeah, and I think that's it. We've all seen, she was electrifying in terms of her pace, but her power as well, defensively, really tough. And you're right, JK, I think it's you don't realise until you sit back and go, first and foremost, they came into it and they wanted to inspire the next generation of Wahine sort of coming through. But then they had a job to do to make sure they backed it up. But they just keep getting better and better and better. And the standards that they set for themselves, especially this woman, man.
And look at those. 2 Rugby World Cup titles, 2 Olympic gold medals, 303 sevens tries. That's remarkable. And then 20 out of a Rugby World Cup. I look at it and you go, you need people to inspire. You need to bring people into the game. When the game is transitioning and getting bigger and bigger, I think she was the perfect person to come from a netball career that hadn't quite arrived, to make that decision, to give it a shot. And, even you think about what Stacey's trying to do in rugby league, it's the fact that people giving it an opportunity, JK. And for me, I think when you talk about the greatest in terms of rugby and what she's done for the game, I see her as that person that this whole next generation have looked up to and grown through.
Yeah, look, and I think I break greatness into different levels, right? And she's definitely there. Now that she's retired, totally, when you look at her, game changer, set the standards, really good leader, but also just her technical ability. you know, come from netball, and you saw in those things, you know, changing the ball from one arm to the other, fending. So for me, totally a game changer.
So, the greatest of all time. It's a discussion that happens all the time. And of course, in sevens at this Olympics, it changed because a certain individual went from playing 15s for France, ended up playing in the sevens game, Antoine Dupont, and there was a suggestion that maybe he's now the greatest of all time, Mills. Now, that's a big statement for a guy that hasn't won a Rugby World Cup, but when you talk about this player, what's the conversation around him, around being a great rugby player, given the fact that his career is not extended that long just yet, but he's won 6 Nations titles, provincial titles. JK's got a lot to talk about here, but Mills, when you look at Antoine Dupont, what's he done by crossing over and winning a gold medal?
Oh, first, that was massive. What he'd done to be able to go from the 15s and then go over and win, you know, a gold medal at the Olympics is huge. In terms of where he's at the moment, you know, he's right up there with one of the best players in the world. You know, his skill set, being able to kick off both feet, you know, from a ruck, you know, box kicks, his speed, his ability to be able, and also defensively. It's always a tough one, JK, when you're talking about the greatest of all time, because a lot of it, for me, in my opinion, comes back to the era you're actually playing it.
God, you annoy me, Goldie. Yeah. Like, everyone at home, Goldie knows that this conversation really annoys me incredibly.
What? Why?
Because
why
the trouble is,
annoy you
mate,
so much?
like this guy is amazing, right? I think he could end up being a great, but he's halfway through his career. He's a really influential rugby player. I love watching him. I think he's got the ability to change the game. But the trouble is with our game is we throw out all these words, and I reckon we need to sit back and make a decision on what is these words. What makes up a legend?
Can I ask you a first question? First question I'll ask you then. Does winning impact this conversation?
No, I think it's a combination. For example, if you get to the end of your career and you haven't won a World Cup, you know, I'll talk about basketball. You love basketball. Patrick Ewing? Great.
Player.
Did he win the NBA?
No.
No. Right? So you've got to take 5 or 6 things. Yeah. You can't just say he's great. Well, right now he is world's best rugby player, but he's still got another 5 or 6 years to go. And at the end of it, like, for example, Stacey...
If he plays to the level he's playing at right now, but doesn't manage to find a way to win a Rugby World Cup, so
it will be irrelevant in the whole scheme of things. Right. So we talk about legends, we talk about all this stuff, and I actually want to put some rules about it. The great thing about the Hall of Fame in America for the NFL and the NBA is they've got a set of rules, and I reckon we need to have those set of rules.
See, I think as fans we look at it a little bit differently. I'll ask you a question then. If Dan Carter had, say, not won in 2015, we know he was a part of 2011, but he got injured, didn't play in the biggest games. If Dan Carter hadn't won a Rugby World Cup, and I regard Dan Carter to me as the greatest rugby player I've seen, because everything he could do, Mills, all of the things you talked about Antoine Dupont, that's what Dan Carter could do in the game, his impact on the game. But what I'm saying to you is, if he hadn't won a Rugby World Cup, because here, look, some of this footage...
That's an easy discussion, mate. There's a harder one. There's a harder one for you, but you go first, Mills. I'll shut up.
I think he was. I think I mean, and the story that he had, and you know, the fact that what he'd done on the rugby pitch while he was playing, if he hadn't won the World Cup, he'd be in that conversation and one of the greatest.
But he won the World Cup. Here's a harder one for you. Richie Mo'unga.
Yep.
There you go. Where's he going to sit?
Well, you always got to look at the impact they have at the international stage and how good and well he's played there and the impact he had. Look, as a Super Rugby player, I've said this, he's the most influential Super Rugby player. I'll ask you this question. So here's another thing, right? In the context of players around the globe, and you talk about the skill set that was required for the way they play, a team plays, for example, like for South Africa. You know, I'll throw a conversation around Andre Pollard. He's led them to 2 Rugby World Cups. His skill set and what he executes for the way that they play, I look at him and go, he starts being in that conversation.
Change the subject.
Johnny Wilkinson.
You change the subject.
No,
change the subject.
I'm just saying to the fact, all of a sudden, it's what you look at. Look, Christian Cullen was one of the greatest players.
I agree.
Game, right?
I agree. But, for example, I want Richie Mo'unga to come back and try and win the World Cup with us so that he goes, at the end of his career, what's he going to say? So, like, when you talk about Dan Carter, you can't say, oh, if he hadn't won the World Cup, because he won it, and he come back from injury, so he is a great...
So it doesn't matter then. The winning thing doesn't matter in terms of their ability?
Like, he is, when he... Well, he's probably hung up his boots now. He is a great, because he went there. So it's these, like...
Well, okay, you saying criteria, what would be the absolute one criteria that you'd say has to be on the table? to become or to even start looking at a great? Is it winning a Rugby World Cup? Is it being the best?
Well, if you're talking about the All Blacks, and I haven't thought too deeply about this, but maybe you start with 40 Test matches or something. Then you talk about super titles, right? Then you talk about World Cups. Then so it has to be a series of things, right? So that you can go, oh, okay, as a young player, right? And don't get me wrong, I think Richie Mwanga is an amazing game changer, like awesome. I would like him to get to the end of his career and look back and think, I should have stayed, because actually all the rest of it doesn't matter, right? So I think what we need to do, and maybe the public can help us, what are these rules? So he's a legend, right? He's getting there. Dupont, for me, will be a great. But I don't know what's going to happen. He might retire next year and go, because everyone's saying, why don't you take up gymnastics, son, so we can win some more golds? You know, they want him to go into motor racing because they think he can do everything.
Do you know this discussion achieved everything I wanted to achieve was to get you going. And it worked, 100% it worked. But the fact, I know there's a deeper discussion. You at home can give us some criteria if you'd like, but it achieved what I wanted to achieve. I'll say this, Antoine Dupont is one of the best, if not the best, in the game right now. But we've got plenty to talk about after the break. We're going to talk the Rugby Championship. But first, after the break, we'll see a game changer in itself, Andrew Mehrtens. Well, he came into a Rugby World Cup. That was his first experience of being in the All Blacks. He hadn't toured. He's going to the biggest stage in South Africa. The timing was right.
He's a super kid. What a great side from Mehrtens.
So I think for Mehrtens, when he got that call up to the All Blacks to start that expansive game the All Blacks are now known for.
In that time in rugby, those little milliseconds are when defenders are on you. And Mehrtens, he just would think about something so quickly that he would always make the right decision to be able to get himself out of any trouble or to get us into the right areas of the field. And that's uncoachable.
Certainly got the distance.
I've had the pleasure of coaching at club level. I remember my very first conversation with him was on our front porch of the house, and I wasn't sure whether he could lead the team as a team because he's only a baby, and I'd like to pick him. I'm not sure if he can run the team. And I'll never forget, he said, I'll be able to run the team, don't worry about that, Steve. I'll run the team, okay? And that was him. You know, he wanted to be in charge. If you were playing a game of cards, you'd want to be in charge. If you were doing the dishes, you'd want to be in charge. And that was one of the things that made him a great player.
And Mehrtens, a brilliant individual try.
Confident, great skill set, good athlete, great speed, had a great kicking game as well, but he played it.
And to be able to play a game of footy that people at that time couldn't play, like Foxy was a great player, but he didn't have that same running game. And then Carlos came along, had that running game, but he didn't have probably the same tactical nous that Mehrtens had. So they have a combination of both Foxy and Carlos, all in one. It's a rare commodity, and I think he had a massive influence on the next guy, which was Carter. His passing game was unbelievable. He could find people in space, and he could throw the thing about 25 metres and put it on a dime.
Mehrtens floats it beautifully. What a pass.
Certainly changed the game.
I've never seen a player with his time and awareness of the situation around him and being able to sum it up that quickly that he then turned anything that could be going into a negative into a positive. It's hard to describe, but I always felt reassured by that confidence and by that ability to do that.
Mehrtens, that's a superb kick into the wind.
And he was a larrikin, wasn't he? He loved having a bit of fun. And he made that okay too. But when he walked onto the pitch, he was all green for go.
Just another crusader in Canterbury, first 5'8", that delivered on cue when he needed to. But when I looked at Mills and the way that he played the game, I had the privilege of playing with him, and I'd never played with anyone like him. Look, I'd played with Carlos at a younger age at high school, but when I got around Mehrtens, that instinct he played with, he could create from anywhere.
Yeah, instinctive as well. You know, I mean, brave. You know, the speed and sort of. He sort of.
Did you say brave?
Well, he had to be right. That position, you had to tackle pretty low, and then they pushed him to the back a couple of times on defence.
Razor did a lot of tackling for him.
Yeah. Yeah, great player.
He was a great player, an absolute great player who played in so many big games, and part of that was the Rugby Championship. And JK, I don't know, because of the Olympics, is all of a sudden we've lost a little bit of, I suppose, lost track of what's coming up, whereas this is a huge Rugby Championship. Yes, the All Blacks have started positively, 3 wins out of 3, but we've got a couple of different challenges coming here, and it's Argentina, who have now beaten the All Blacks in New Zealand before. You've got South Africa away, and then you've got the Wallabies, who under Joe Schmidt are looking to build some confidence. This is something to relish and look forward to, right?
Yeah, I went to Randwick yesterday. So the last time I went to Randwick, we had a massive midweek game for the All Blacks, and I was talking to Simon Poitevin about some buoyancy. Lots of people there, people like 7,000-8,000 people. Great to see Club Rugby, but there's this new spirit in Australia. They're really happy with Joe. They think the team's heading in the right direction. I personally believe this is the hardest championship we've played for a long, long time, just because how do you go to South Africa with a South Africa that's in such form and play twice over there? So it's a different type of competition. Are people saying to me, oh, South Africa aren't coming here? No, we're going there twice, Argentina here twice. So it makes it way more difficult, I believe, you know?
Are we sleeping on Argentina a little bit, though? I mean, I don't think the All Blacks in any way, shape or form will be underestimating them, the fact, but I know we're not, but in some ways, because it hasn't been front and centre, are we looking at, yes, we dominated them a semi-final of Rugby World Cup, Mills, but this is a squad under a new coach who beat France. Yes, it might be in France B team that went into Argentina, but they've done that and they've won. This is a team that will be coming here with an element of not necessarily confidence, but knowing that they can beat the All Blacks.
But motivation. No, you know, I mean, they didn't play their best sort of rugby against a weakened French side. I think the All Blacks don't take them like it in the physical side. I think they've had enough, a couple of weeks of sort of, gearing up towards the All Blacks, that they come here and they say, hey, we're going to take them on physically. And if you compare that to what the English did, these next two are, I think they're really important. They are really important games, particularly for the All Blacks to kickstart the championship.
And for our middle row, Scott Barrett looks as though he's out for the first couple of Test matches through an injury to one of his fingers. So, and remember that there's no Brodie Retallick, JK, and there's no Sam Whitelock. So all of a sudden, the 3 locks that played last year against them in the semi-final are no longer there. So it's up to a young Sam Darry, and it's up to Patrick Tuipulotu and Tupou Vai to lead the charge, because that's an area up front that they're going to have a go, right?
Yeah, the biggest issue for me is probably the leadership side of things in the middle of the pack. I think that Scott Barrett is an amazing leader. He's also gives you confidence, not only as our captain now, but he's learnt from Retallick, he's learnt from that. And I think locking and that hard yards takes something special. And you have to earn the right with Argentina. I don't know why, but everybody underestimates Argentina, and it's probably because they're Latin-based, right? You guys have beaten France and then lost them 3 months later. I've done the same. Argentina's the same. They come down, but you never know what you're going to get. But if they turn up, if they're motivated, if they're ready to go, they're as good as any other side around. They're 4th in the world, aren't they? When they got knocked out in the quarters.
Yeah, they turned up 2 years ago in Christchurch.
That's right.
They came to Christchurch in conditions which suited them because it was a little bit wet, a little bit dewy. We made a couple of errors, presented them a couple of soft tries, and then, like the first time they beat us in Australia through the COVID years, I'll talk about that, their defence stood up. So, Mills, I mean, I look at it, who needs to make an impact for the All Blacks, and are we expecting a similar team that maybe we saw to the second test at England, those 2 test matches? Is that what you're expecting?
I mean, that Christchurch loss, I mean, that was big. There was a big week leading into that with the stuff that was happening off the field. I don't take too much into it. One thing I will take it, if you're not there mentally, and if you don't beat up the passion, because that's what they'll bring, they'll be really passionate. They've had 2 weeks to rejuvenate after their sort of games. If they don't go out there and win that physical dominance against, Argentina, it's going to be a long day at the office. And I think and when you look at the guys, what you just said, Barrett's out, who is going to step up and actually be that enforcer against a team that's going to be physical?
There's an Italian word called rognoso, which is like really annoying. They're just annoying. At the breakdown, they slow it down. You get frustrated with them. Their defensive line is very good. They smack you around and they get you out of your rhythm. And so it becomes annoying. No one likes playing them because it's annoying. And then when you're getting annoyed, you start taking risks. You stop sticking to the game plan. So the most important thing for the All Blacks is actually to be ready for that and be really, really patient. And believe it or not, against Argentina, take your 3, take your 6, take your 9, right? Get to 12 and just really wear them down. If they're going to give away penalties, really work them out of that.
There are only 3 more Test matches in New Zealand this year, and there are tickets still available for you to get yourself to these games. And these 2 tests in particular, And this first one against this Argentinian side is in Wellington, but then at Eden Park on August the 17th. And then there's the Wallabies as well for the Bledisloe Cup at Sky Stadium on September the